At one
Your WavyOcho gonna react to Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair, why they hate each other.
point in time,
Charlotte
Charlotte
Flair and Becky Lynch were the best of friends. They were half of the four horsewomen and worked together all the time. However, nowadays, the two openly do not like each other.
Becky, what we have here is...
I mean, Becky Lynch is on Raw and Charlotte is on SmackDown, so it's on two different brands.
Word association. Charlotte Flair.
So, how did we get here?
That was no hesitation, bro. Called Charlotte an asshole.
sure to like and subscribe.
Subscribe right now as we talk about why Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair hate
With no hesitation.
each other.
Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair both signed for the WWE at similar times, with Charlotte signing her contract in May 2012 and Becky Lynch signing her contract less than a year later. Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch had very different starts in NXT. Charlotte Flair was a part of the BFFs and Becky Lynch was an Irish dancer. They crossed paths in the early days of their WWE careers in NXT a couple of times, but perhaps most notably was when it was for the women's title. Charlotte Flair had won the NXT women's title in 2014 following the title being vacated by Paige, and she got herself into a feud with her old BFF's pal Sasha Banks, who was aligned with Becky Lynch at the time. Charlotte Flair would retain against Sasha Banks, and Sasha Banks would turn on Becky after costing her a match against Bayley in February of 2015, and this would of course lead to NXT TakeOver rival
Sasha's not even in WWE no more. The only four out of the four horsemen. Or the only three out of the four is Charlotte, Bayley, and Becky. The only one is not in the company no more is Sasha Banks. She's in New Japan, living her best life, and she was in an AEW show. So, yeah.
2015.
Charlotte Flair versus Sasha Banks versus Becky Lynch versus Bayley for the NXT Women's Championship. This match was highly acclaimed, it was a very good match, and it was what caused these four women to be referred to as the Four Horsewomen. And the match was of course won by Sasha Banks, who won the match and became the new NXT Women's Champion. Shortly after this, Becky would unsuccessfully challenge her old ally Sasha Banks for the title, and herself, Charlotte Flair and Sasha Banks were all shot up and called up to the main roster to be part of the Divas Revolution. Becky Lynch and Charlotte were a part of the Submission Sorority, then changed to Team PCB alongside Paige, and Sasha Banks was a part of Team Bad alongside Naomi and Tamina, and they were all feuding against each other, as well as Team Bella, made up of the Bella Twins and Alicia Fox. Honestly, the less said about the Divas Revolution the better, but it ended with Charlotte Flair winning the Divas Championship, which led to the triple threat match at WrestleMania 32 for the Women's Championship between Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks, the three women who had been called up in the first place. And once again, we got to see another epic match between all of these women as they rocked the house down at WrestleMania 32, and Charlotte Flair emerged your Women's Champion at the end of this match, and Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch would go their separate ways following this, as Charlotte would stay on Raw as the Raw Women's Champion, and Becky Lynch would go to SmackDown, where she would become the inaugural SmackDown Women's Champion. And it wouldn't be until the summer of 2018 that Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch would meet again in a major way in the WWE. After Becky Lynch had lost the SmackDown Women's Championship at the end of 2016 to Alexa Bliss, her career on the SmackDown brand kind of cooled down a little bit. However, after some wins and all the fans getting behind her, she earned a shot at the title against Carmella at SummerSlam 2018, a match that Charlotte Flair somehow, someway found her way into, turning it.
They love, one thing about WWE is they love their Charlotte, bro. They love Charlotte, bro, because, that's Ric Flair's daughter, you feel me? Hadn't Charlotte, hadn't, Ric Flair, damn, hadn't Charlotte had it not been that's not Ric Flair's daughter, they will not push her that much, bro. But it's considering that's Ric Flair's daughter, of course they gonna push her.
Into a triple threat.
And not only that, but also winning the damn thing, pinning Becky Lynch to become the SmackDown Women's Champion once again in her career. After the match, Becky Lynch attacked the new champion.
Charlotte wins mad titles, bro.
In attacking Charlotte
Flair and turning heel in the process, but the
Which I don't care, bro. I mean, Charlotte is a great wrestler, bro. She is a really great wrestler.
fans very clearly
did not want to boo Becky. In fact, they cheered her very loudly when she attacked Charlotte, and the fans were choosing to get behind Becky Lynch instead, and the WWE had now unintentionally made Becky Lynch the biggest face of the company. Becky Lynch would face Charlotte Flair again at Hell in a Cell 2018 in singles action, and with the fans firmly behind her, she bested Charlotte Flair and won the SmackDown Women's title from her. And following having her face broken by Nia Jax and beating Charlotte Flair once more in their legendary last woman standing match at Evolution, she was now the biggest star in the company. She was the man. At TLC 2018, Becky defended against Charlotte and Asuka in a TLC match, which Asuka would win after Ronda Rousey attacked Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. And after Becky Lynch failed to regain the title from Asuka at the 2019 Royal Rumble and then win the Women's Royal Rumble that same night, and Charlotte Flair, of course, found her way into the match and beat Asuka for the SmackDown Women's title. What a terrible decision. WrestleMania 35 was set to see WrestleMania's first women's main event.
And this match was, I'm not gonna lie, it was so disappointing, bro. That WrestleMania was so disappointing, bro. And honestly, bro, like, I like Charlotte, but she didn't need to be in this match, bro. Like, she could have faced Asuka with in the SmackDown Women's Championship. She should have faced Asuka in WrestleMania 35, bro. Back then, bro. But, you know,
as Charlotte Flair,
Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch would face off for both the women's champions.
and it made evented though, and it was disappointing, bro. It was very disappointing.
chips.
And while the match
And Ronda Rousey left after. She hasn't been seen since 3 years.
Didn't really deliver
to people's expectations, Becky Lynch came out on top in the culmination of a story that began with that attack on Charlotte at SummerSlam. It was a satisfying moment, and this backstory was all for me to show you how much Charlotte and Becky Lynch had worked together up until this point, and the legendary matches and moments that they had had together. Which is why when they finally met again in late 2021, we were extremely shocked by what we saw and what we found out. On the October 22nd, 2021 SmackDown, Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch met to swap their titles. Charlotte at the time was the Raw Women's Champion, and Becky at the time was the SmackDown Women's Champion, but they had been drafted to opposite brands, so they were set to swap the belts. And in a very awkward moment and awkward segment where neither of them said a word to each other despite having mics, Charlotte Flair seemingly avoided and prolonged giving Becky Lynch the title for as long as possible, even dropping it and then refusing to pick it up for a second or two, and then Becky chucked her title hard at Charlotte to officially swap the titles in one of the most awkward segments ever. And just from watching that, people knew something was up. It seemed like Becky and Charlotte did just not want to be in the ring with each other. And the questions of fans were answered when a couple of days later reports would start to surface that Charlotte and Becky Lynch both blew up backstage over this title exchange segment. According to reports, Charlotte Flair wasn't meant to drop the title belt into the ring, and Lynch wasn't meant to chuck the title belt at Charlotte. Becky Lynch was very angry that Charlotte was trying to make her look bad during the segment, and that the segment was meant to see Charlotte kind of play cat and mouse with the title, pulling it away from Becky, but instead when Becky went to grab it, she chucked the title on the floor instead. And the reports would also reveal that Charlotte and Becky had had a strained relationship and hadn't been friends dating back to 2018 after a promo in which Becky Lynch referred to Charlotte as plastic, which came as a huge surprise to fans given—
Nah. She dead ass. Wait, Becky called Charlotte plastic? They might even know that.
the amount of work together
they had done before that. And with that, the final match between Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair was set. It was champion versus champion at Survivor Series, Raw Women's Champion Becky Lynch versus SmackDown Women's Champion Charlotte Flair, and in the match, Becky Lynch came out on top once again over her longtime rival Charlotte Flair. And as of right now, this is the final time that these two have met one-on-one, and it may be the final time that they meet one-on-one. Hopefully not. And since going their separate ways, Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair have both spoken about the title swapping incident and their friendship in general. Becky Lynch revealed on the Stone Cold podcast that the segment was meant to see Becky Lynch receive the title first and hold both the titles aloft, and Flair was going to challenge her to a fight that Becky Lynch would cower away from. And of course, that's not what happened, because she of course threw the title on the mat, which pissed off Becky Lynch. With Becky Lynch also stating on the Stone Cold podcast that she predicted this would happen backstage, and even told others that she thought Flair would refuse to give her the 2 belts moment. Essentially, Becky Lynch believed that Charlotte Flair went into business for herself. Charlotte Flair went on the Stone Cold podcast later that year and said that she would never go on a scripted television show and do something off script. She also mentioned that the awkward pause in picking up the belt from the mat was due to the fact that the Charlotte Flair character would never pick the belt back up, and that looking back, she wished that she demanded Sonya Deville to pick it up instead for her. Regardless of the personal drama though, or any friendship drama between Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair, the work the two produced together has indeed been amazing, and they always kept it professional and just did their damn job. I think there's a few people in the wrestling business who could probably take advice from these two.